Welcome to the Way Outside the Nest podcast. I am your host, Hollywood J, with so much to say. Let's start the show.
Prescott, pressure, he's in trouble, he's sacked! Josh Sweat gets home and there's no timeouts. Dancing around, just good throw in the end zone, his catch is made by Lamb, but he's short! The Eagles will win it!
On this episode is a special episode. I brought on some of my favorite guests, some of your favorite guests, some of everybody's favorite guests to go over their Eagles takes. Talk about that sweet ass Princess Diana throwback Eagles jacket, Jalen Hurts MVP race, and the Kansas City Chiefs game in 2 weeks. It's a fun episode. I want to thank my guests. We brought back Sharia, we brought back Tyler, and we brought back Jay Flexo. These three particular individuals have predicted the future, pushed back on some narratives, one of the first to say a lot of things, so this is fun to go back, give them their flowers while they're here, correct my mistakes. Now, without further ado, here's my conversations.
I can see it like a distant storm. Looks so dark, but it feels so warm. I can see it dancing through my door. She wanted to be so much more. I can make it read like a red letter day. We can get lost in your favorite place. I can believe it's better this way. I can believe whatever.
My next guest did so good. The response was crazy. So of course we had to bring back Sharia.
Hey, how are you?
Now, I'm great. Our episode that we did last week did serious numbers, so it's an honor and a pleasure to bring you back and talk Eagles again. So I guess the first thing I want to ask you is, how was the game? I saw you went somewhere to watch the Cowboys game.
I did. It was actually the first time I've been out this season, like at a bar or anything like that, to watch one of the Eagles games. I usually just watch them at home, just because I'm insane and I pace and I'm nuts when the Eagles play. But it was my best friend's birthday and she moved to Virginia last year. So we were in Virginia and she was like, there's a bar called Renegade and it's an Eagles bar. I said, no way. There's an Eagles bar in Arlington, Virginia? And she said, yeah. So I didn't know what to expect. I was like, okay, maybe there'll be like a few people. It was packed. It was so cool. They go every time the Eagles play. There's like 50 to 60 people there. They actually have their own chants that they make up, which I thought was interesting. Like,
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was. I thought I was like, I said, okay, I know I watch the games at home, but I've been to Xfinity Live, I've been to the Link, I've tailgated. These are new chants. I said, okay, like they definitely made these up, so that was interesting. They were really cool, though. It was an awesome experience.
Nice. So, best friend's birthday, huh? Let's give her a birthday shout out. What's her name?
Rachel.
Shout out to Rachel in Virginia. So the people, I've gotten feedback and they said they really liked when you graded things. So I guess we're going to have to drop our first grade of the day. How would you grade that bar you went to?
Oh, an A. A bar. It was A. It was really cool. It was funny during halftime. You know, it was me, Sophia, and Rachel. We all went to high school together. We've been friends ever since. And Sophia moved to New York. So we haven't seen each other in about 6 months. And me and Soph aren't from there. Rachel doesn't usually go there. And there was this one guy, and he was like, during halftime, we play flip cup, like play with everyone. They were just super welcoming people. And it was just a lot of fun. And Rachel and Jason Kelsey have the same birthday, so that was cool.
Now, I did see a video of you that you posted that after the victory of you running through the bar with the Eagles flag on. I saw that. I was like, okay, that's my people.
It was so fun. Usually, so I'm not a big drinker, especially, and that sounds weird. I know everyone loves to drink during games and stuff, but I'm so need to be locked in. I act like I'm playing. But I was so stressed out. I was like, I need a drink. So I ended up drinking a few tequila pineapples. But
you were turned up. Now, you as soon as I called you, you were ready to call me out.
I do want to say you were so surprised they said Murrow over Dean, and look what happened. Dean's out for a month.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. Don't worry. We're going to talk about that, actually.
You were one of the first to say Morrow. You said it with confidence. I buzzed you. I made you explain yourself. And now you look like a genius. So what was I missing?
I don't think it's necessarily missing anything. I think because we know Nakobe Dean is so gifted and talented, it's just that his ceiling is so high, you know. So, and when you draft a linebacker and he went to Georgia and he went with Jordan Davis, and again, he's so crazy talented, it's kind of like harder to believe that he might not be there yet in the NFL. It's harder, you know, as much as we forget, the NFL is really hard to play in and stay successful and consistent in. And just, he didn't play for a few weeks because he got hurt in the beginning of the season. Murrow and Cunningham were just doing, I think, a great job. So I think that's just why I picked Murrow. I said, for right now, I think he's been more consistent of a player than a Kobe Dean. And consistency, the best thing is availability, you know, and that's, the Kobe Dean is just hurt, so.
Well, that was a great call. I definitely give you a ton of credit. I think that last episode was so good because it was authentic. It was me not realizing that you knew your stuff and real time coming to the realization that, like, wow, like, you really know your stuff. You're like, you're good. So I think that was cool. That was cool for people to witness that.
Thank you.
Now, I saw basically ESPN Analytics put out a graphic stating that the Eagles will lose the next 4 games. That includes the Chiefs, the Bills, the Niners, and the Cowboys. What do you think the next 4 games are looking like?
Well, we play the Chiefs, then we play the Niners, and then we play the Bills, and then we play the Seahawks, I believe. Unless we play the Cowboys and then the Seahawks, I forget. I obviously know that this is supposed to be the tough stretch of our season, and they're top teams. I just believe in that it's a week-to-week league. The Chiefs had 45 yards in the second half on offense against the Dolphins. Like, they're just not unbeatable. They're just not. I just think we don't have home field advantage. We're going to be in their house. I think they'll, you know, play a part. It's Arrowhead. It's very loud there. It's electric there. We're both coming off of a bye week. I think that's huge for us, and it's huge for them. It's like a preview of another Super Bowl if that's who we'd play. But I think we'll come off with a win. I definitely do think we'll beat the Chiefs. The Niners, I'm going to sound like a cornball because I think we can win every single one of these games.
Nah, that's fine.
Yeah, the Niners, I mean, they've lost 3 in a row. We've seen it. So and that, honestly, in the beginning of the season, I thought the Niners weren't going to lose much at all. Like, I really was like, holy shit, that team is putting so much numbers on offense. Their defense is awesome. They still are, but we've seen them lose. So I think we could beat them, and we play them at home. The Bills, I think, are overrated, or people are starting to see that I think Josh Allen might be just a teeny bit just a teeny bit overrated. But that's just my personal opinion. I know people are going to be mad at me for saying that. I just think he turns the ball over a lot, and no one ever says anything because he's a really good guy and a great person to root for. He's very charming, but I don't know. I'm not really worried about the Bills. We play them at home as well. And then the Cowboys and Seahawks, you know, we usually split with the Cowboys. And I'm not trying to be negative. Like, we get one at home. They usually get theirs at home. But I'd be ecstatic if we sweep them.
Same.
So I think we could win. I think, realistically, we'll lose one. Like,
okay.
The ceiling, like, what I want is we can win all of them. But that's just because the thing about the Eagles that people don't seem to grasp or understand, no matter how many times it's been, 9 weeks of football, it doesn't matter. Like, people refuse to grasp that we know how to win. It might not look pretty. It might not be flashy, and we're not putting 30 points on people and then, a shutout, a blowout. We're not blowing these teams out, but we're winning. So when we needed our defense, that last minute of the Cowboys game, to come up big, they did. They really did. I thought the game was over. I really was like, oh, my God, there's 5 seconds left. They are going to score. It was just, I was tasting in this Eagles bar in Virginia. I couldn't even, I was freaking out. I just think that was a moment where our offense couldn't do anything. They're obviously on the sideline, and they really had to rely on our secondary and everyone else, and we pulled through and we knew how to win. It might have not been pretty. It might have been, I know CeeDee Lamb had, 190 yards? That's nuts. Like, that's absolutely bananas, but it is. But we still, they had a really great game, and we still won. I think that says a lot. I know the narrative on ESPN and First Take and Get Up and all this stuff was how great Dak played, and Dak just got bald. I don't hate him. I just, I think he's our biggest rival. I'm not the biggest, fan of who he is, but I think he's a great person, and he is not a scrub. He can ball, he can play. And Sam Howell had 400 yards on us. I just think our defense gets it together right when they need to, and it happens to be in the fourth quarter, So it's definitely something to work on. You know how I feel about Sean Desai. I love him.
You did. You definitely said good things, and I'm a huge Eli Ricks fan. I've been a huge Eli Ricks fan all season long, and I was watching him last game get torched, and I'm trying to defend the man, and he's still getting torched. What would you say to Eli Ricks after a game like that?
Probably to let it go. You can't. Personally, for me, I'm the furthest thing from an athlete. I just know if I was in that position, though, he knows how he played. He knows. He tweeted something after the game. Very self-aware kid. It's short memory. That game happened. We came up with a win. Now we got to worry about the Chiefs and focus on how you can get better with that. He's still young. We're just really hard on our players because the standard's really high. And I love Eli Ricks as well, So, also, I think it just gives credit to CeeDee Lamb. He was sensational. You can't say he wasn't. I do think it was strange that we were using Ricks on CeeDee, but I'm not a coach, so that wasn't up to me.
I do think that even though you're not an athlete, you still have eyes, so you can see what's going on. So that works. You were also one of the only ones defending Brian Johnson. In fact, you laid out a really good argument that I've never heard of, that nobody was talking about, and that was that he was a QB coach last year, and we need to give him more time. So now that we look a lot better, we're rising up the red zone scoring list, and we're starting to put up points. How do you think he's going to deal with the Goddard injury?
Um, I think losing Dallas Goedert is like super heartbreaking, and it's a huge deal. And I'm grateful that it's, you know, supposedly only 4 weeks and not the whole season. But and as much as I love him, we lost him for 4 weeks around this time last year, maybe even 5 weeks last year. And we were on a real, I believe that week was week 12. We put 48 points on the Giants. Like, we were still winning. We were still a winning team. We didn't lose again until we played the Cowboys. I think that's the game Dallas actually did come back to play in. I think it's next man up mentality. I really do. I think that we're going to have to get creative and fill a missing void in our offense, is a big part of our offense. You could kind of see in the beginning of the season we didn't target him enough and he was open and stuff like that. It's definitely a loss. I think I'm just going to have to wait and see how it goes. I'm not too worried because of the fact that we were still winning games and still performing on offense even though Dallas Goedert wasn't playing. I think Dallas Goedert not playing is going to affect the run game actually a lot more in terms of blocking and stuff like that. So I think that's where we'll feel it most. But I'm just devastated. I'm really upset about it because it happened last year. He was looking at a all-pro year, and same thing this year. I don't know. I feel really bad for him. He's a really good player and a really good person, and it's unfortunate that he got hurt.
Yeah, it is a huge injury, and hopefully we can deal with it going forward. What do you think the bigger weakness is on the Eagles, the tight end position right now or the nickel position?
Oh, nickel. I mean, I think we've seen... I will never not trust in our offense because of our quarterback, you know? And he's just the toughest man. Seriously, you could hear a pin drop in the bar when he got hurt. And everyone just, I swear to God, everyone just got quiet. Nobody moved. It was frozen in time. And seeing him get up, it was really, I kind of blacked out for a second. My heart was in my stomach. I thought that just from the way he went down.
Yeah, how he's hopping around.
Yeah, he stayed on his arms, leaning down on his arms. He didn't just get up right away like he usually does. I really for a millisecond thought that's his ACL or something just blew. I was really, really afraid. And then when I saw him get up and limping, I thought he'd be out for there was only 15 seconds left in the
half.
In the half, yeah. So now he came back in, and in the third quarter, first drive, it was a touchdown to Devontae Smith where that ball was absolutely perfect. It was a dot. It was insane. I trust in him so much that I'm not, I don't want to say I'm not worried about our offense, even though we're missing our tight end. It's definitely still a bit of a concern. I just know we're going to be okay. Where I think on defense, this is 2 weeks in a row now that we've allowed almost 400 yards from a quarterback. So I just think that even though we've won, I do think that it needs to be fixed. We can't allow every quarterback to ball out against us, you know?
Who is your MVP right now?
Oh, God. It's got to be Jalen Hurts.
Get her the Princess Diana jacket.
What?
Get her the Princess Diana jacket immediately. She's real.
I'll drop my Venmo or something. I really want it. I'm obsessed with it.
We need to see Sharia in this jacket. It would be the best. Let's make this happen.
Yeah, it could be the new cover art for the podcast.
Let's go.
No, it's Jalen Hurts. He's 8-1. If it was any other quarterback, they'd already be. Come on, this is my thing. I don't know if you watch First Things First or any of those shows,
Definitely.
Nick Wright, who gets on my freaking nerves.
Yeah.
He does his quarterback mountains, and Jalen Hurts is he actually fell off of. He is actually a tier lower now. He's below Dak, and the whole, Wilds and Brew were like, you can't do that, But I just think that you see Patrick Mahomes might not have a great game. Like the Broncos, they didn't score a touchdown the second time they played them. Not a touchdown, I just think that if it was anybody else that was 8-1, they'd Josh Allen or Joe Burrow, people that they had these expectations for to be great, they'd automatically be, well, that's the MVP. He's been playing the best. He's 8-1. But with Jalen Hurts, people were wrong about him. And when you're wrong about someone, and sometimes you don't know how to admit that or believe that, well, now it's, okay, he's playing great, but you're a system quarterback. It's not because you're great. It's because everyone else is. And they're saying it because they were wrong about him. And you're the quarterback of Philadelphia. And in Philly, the goalpost for you will always move. Like, they're not, like last year, even before Jalen got hurt, they didn't want to give him the MVP, and they probably still don't. So Jalen's got my vote because it is a quarterback award, whether people think it's fair or not. It's just what it's been. And he has the best record in football. And he's a top 5 quarterback in terms of mostly everything. He's the 5th in passing yards. Yeah. So, and I think it's interesting that because of our offense, the QB run design plays haven't really been working as well as they did last year. I do think that's a bit interesting, but Jalen Hurts has just proven that he's a pocket passer who has great legs, and that's just who he's been. We knew that, but not everyone else. And he really can throw that ball, and no one can argue it anymore. He's awesome.
Well, again, I do love that analysis. That was really good. Brought up a lot of things, including the QB power runs or the QB design runs haven't been working that well this year. First person to bring that up. So there you go. I like that.
I don't really understand. I still know if it's when the play is called. I know it's happened a few times in the red zone where we would call a QB run play and it went nowhere. So maybe I don't know. I try to rewatch the play and I'm like, oh God, I don't really know what. And the thing with any type of run play, it's your O-line, And our O-line's awesome and it's great, but for some reason the QB draws just aren't working. I think our defenses have kind of caught on to it. I just think we have to change it up a little so they don't know exactly what we're going to run or the way it goes,
Speaking of run, what would you grade the Eagles' run game so far?
A B. I think a B. I mean, it's the beginning of the year, DeAndre Swift was balling. Good Lord. And now our run game is kind of stalled a bit. We have a few big plays, but I just think there's certain teams that you got to throw the ball more, and there's certain teams we got to run it down their throat. So it just depends. That Kenny Gainwell touchdown was insane, though. That was actually. I think people are way too mean to him, and we should take back everything we said because he's a good running back. We should be a bit nicer.
Let's all formally apologize to Kenny Gainwell for the slander. Kenny G, a.k.a. Playoff Kenny. We're sorry.
We are so sorry.
I'm having a lot of time getting excited for this Kansas City game. I don't know what a win or a loss will make me feel, and I don't know if it's a revenge game for me. So how does this Kansas City game feel for you?
I know a lot of people who do feel like it's a revenge game. I do and I don't. It's kind of weird. It's not the Super Bowl. It's a regular season game, and it's a big game because it's the next game. So it's just the next game, and I want to win. I don't care who we were playing. but we just happened to play the team that beat us in the Super Bowl. I just think it's magnitude. Like, yeah, it's a big game, and we're both, again, coming off bye weeks, and you kind of want to be like, haha, we beat you, but it's a regular season game. Like, it's not the Super Bowl. So I think a revenge game is if we play them in the Super Bowl, like we beat them. But
There we go.
as of right now, it's just a big regular season game, and it's the next game, so it's really important. Honestly, Andy Reid is just such a great coach, and their defense has been a lot better than anybody thought they would have been coming into the year. I think the Chiefs' defense has actually been playing better than the Chiefs' offense.
Jeez.
So I think it'll be, for our offense, we did just play the Cowboys, who also have a great, great defense, and we're still able to put points on the board and win that game. So it's not that I'm doubting my offense. I think you have to appreciate the Chiefs' defense, because those are not men that you want to underestimate. They've been doing a great job, and they're the reason that they're winning games. And you rarely see that with the Chiefs because of how high-powered their offense is. And their offense looks kind of, I don't want to say mid, but mid. When Pat doesn't have Travis Kelce to throw it to, he can't really throw it to anyone else because the receivers either drop it or don't make the play, or Pat gets picked. Pat's been throwing picks too, He has the same amount of turnovers as Jalen. So I just think that it's going to be a great game. It's prime time. I can't wait. Is it Monday night? Is it a Monday night game?
I don't know, actually. That's a great question.
I think it's Monday night.
If it's Monday night, oh, wow, okay. That changes things. It's a big game if it's Monday night. That's different.
I know it's 8 o'clock, but
All right.
yeah, it's a Monday night game at 8:15.
Oh, wow.
Okay. We're going in Monday night.
I think Travis Kelce, obviously Jason Kelce. I don't know. It's going to be. I love the Kelce brothers a lot, so I definitely do think Taylor Swift might pop up, but I don't know. That'd be kind of crazy.
Well, do you think? I think she's on tour right now in another country. Actually, I've been scouting their team. Take the whole team with you, Taylor. Take everybody. So, do you think this game versus Kansas City, if Jalen Hurts puts up another great performance, is this the performance that's going to lock up the MVP for him?
Yes and no, because I think if this is a kind of game where, and it does happen sometimes, like say Pat has a 300-yard passing game, like 3 tutties, and Jalen has 200-yard passing game, and we ran the ball all game, and Jalen's stats weren't better than Pat's. They're going to be like, well, it's just because he's Jalen Hurts. It's so frustrating. I think if Jalen has a 400-yard passing game, 4 tutties, and a W, and we win, then there's no doubt in my mind that he should be locked up for the MVP as of Week 10. But if Pat has a better stat line, even if the Chiefs lose, they're going to say, well, Pat played better. And that's just how the NFL is when it comes to Patrick, and it's how it is when it comes to Jalen. So it should lock up Jalen if he has a good stat line and we win. But I don't know if it will necessarily just yet because of how the way people treat Jalen Hurts in the media and stuff.
Well, I know you've watched a lot of behind-the-scenes Eagles stuff. I really haven't been keeping up as much this year, but my biggest question is it Jason Kelce's last year?
I think so. And I don't even want to, get into it because it makes me cry. He's a treasure, dude. I love him so much, and he's Philadelphia. He's the heart and soul of it, and I watch New Heights all the time, and that podcast just made me fall in love with Jason even more, and he's a good man, and he's a good man first, on top of being, the greatest center ever. The way he talks about Jalen Hurts, the way he talks about his teammates, who he is as a person and as a leader. Like, the thought of him not being on this Eagles team or any team, I can't even think about it. Unfortunately, I do think, just based off everything going on, and he has another newborn, you probably do want to be there with your family and feel like you're not missing out too much. And did you watch the Kelsey documentary?
I did not. No. I know you did.
That's why.
It was a tough season last year. I haven't even watched the highlights of 2022 yet. It's just that Super Bowl loss sucked it out of me. But tell me about it.
Well, in the Kelsey documentary, you really got to see his life. What it's like being a center and what it's like juggling having a wife and children and still trying to be the captain of your team and being accountable and being the best man you could be. And he has so many other things that he wants to do, because if he were to retire, you still need other hobbies and other jobs and stuff to do. Like, he's 35 years old. Like, he needs to be able to have something else that he's passionate about. So you kind of see him do all these things. Like, he wants a farm. He wants, like, to have these different things that he's interested in. There was a scene before the Super Bowl, and it was really hard for me to watch it. I mean, I cried the whole documentary. 2 minutes in, I was crying. But, yeah, it was really emotional. There's a scene right before the Super Bowl where he's talking to the team. I don't know if you saw it, but...
Seen a clip, but keep going.
Yeah, and he's just emotional, and seeing grown men cry, I just can't handle it. And the way he talks about Jalen and every man in the locker room and saying, win it for us, do it for us, and it's just a loss, like, not having him around. Like, I know that those men want to play for him, too, you know, and he's such a leader. They learn so much from him. I can't even think about it. I can't think about him retiring. I really probably won't leave my house for a week if that happens. I do think that if we win the Super Bowl, when we win the Super Bowl this year, he's going to retire. I think he will retire. But that's why, like, this season's going by so fast that I'm like, slow down. It's going to be nice having the bye week this week and just enjoying a day of football without having to be stressed out. I'm so excited.
That is true, and I'm glad I asked that question to you, because that was the first time asking someone that question and getting like a in-depth response, because I know you watched a lot of things behind the scenes on the Eagles, so that was cool. Thank you for that answer. You definitely deserve the Princess Diana jacket. You're killing it. You're a great Eagles fan. All right, so I guess my next question, since you said you were going to enjoy your bye week, what are you doing this weekend?
Well, I work Saturday, and I work Sunday morning. So the earlier games are going to be a bit harder for me to watch, but as soon as I'm done, I'm just going to go home and watch football. Pretty chill weekend. Usually they are. I really don't know if there's a lot of good games this Sunday. So either way, I'm watching. Either way, it'll be on, and I'll be watching the game. I do think C.J. Stroud is absolutely awesome. I love him a lot.
He's having a great year.
Yeah, he's been so awesome. He had 5 touchdowns. That game was crazy. He was really, really awesome. The way he carries himself, he's really young. I don't know if you saw, he hit, like, one of Jalen's poses. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I saw that last week.
Yeah, he's one of his favorite quarterbacks. So, like, I don't know. That's really awesome to see and hear. Josh Dobbs, oh, my goodness. I was emotional watching the Vikings post the locker room video. And it's crazy that he had to learn a whole new offense in a few days and go out there and win. It was really cool to see. So there's so much about football that I love. It was a really cool week of football this past week. There was a lot of good games on.
Well, you definitely know your stuff. I'm sure there's a bunch of guys out there excited and surprised of hearing all of this. So that's cool. This was a great talk again. Is there anything I forgot to ask that you want to talk about?
Not really. I think there's just good vibes. I think it's cool that we're the first team, I believe, to be 8-1 again, like in back-to-back seasons. I think that's really cool.
We've been blessed. I'll say that.
Yeah. And I have a question for you. What do you think the next 4 to 5 game stretch is going to look like?
That's a great question. I've been watching Mahomes all year. I watch Eagles and then I flip over and I watch Mahomes, and he's been cooking, and I'm glad you brought up that defense. You definitely know your stuff about the NFL, because I think the same thing. I think that defense is a lot better than we played last year. I think they're more confident. I think they won the Super Bowl, so they know what it takes. So we gotta, it's a test, but it's a weird test, because even if we pass this test, it really doesn't mean anything until you do it in the Super Bowl. So I think 4-1.
We're not the same team as last year, and neither are they. So it's two different teams playing each other. So it's kind of hard to be a revenge. We shall see. I'm really excited. I mean, it's Monday night, so...
Yeah, you let me know it's Monday night, so... All right. I got to wait a whole day? Okay.
I know. But at least it's the only game on. Hopefully, I think so, yeah. And... Yeah. I work Tuesday morning. That's going to be annoying. But other than that...
Well, hey, you keep grinding. I do appreciate you for making some time to jump on the show again. Your contributions are endless. You're killing it. You have fans already. Did you want to drop your handle so they find you again?
Sure. My Instagram is Sharia Tayani, and my Twitter is the same thing. I guess that's hard to spell. Maybe, should I spell it?
Yeah, probably.
It's SHRIYASAINI. And yeah, thank you so much for having me again. It was really fun. This time I felt like I was a lot less nervous. So.
Oh yeah, you're a natural. You're a natural. You're killing it. Thank you always. And you have a great week. Don't work too hard out there.
Seriously, hit me up whenever. I'll do this every week. It's so fun.
Sounds good. I will. I will. All right. Take care. On to my next guest. It's Jay Flexo, the controversial Jay Flexo. I got a tweet sent to me the other day, and I was like, yeah, that's Jay Flexo. That's Jay Flexo at his finest right there. Just don't get canceled, Jay. Don't get canceled, man. Anyways, let's get to it. So we got my brother Jay Flexo on the line. We brought him back. He's a frequent contributor now. He's back on. Say what's up, Jay Flexo.
What's up, man? Everybody good?
Good, man. We good. So how you feeling on this bye week, man? We got 2 weeks off.
I mean, I'm happy. I think we left on a good note off last game. You know, we have the biggest game of the season coming up. Just getting healthy and just preparing for that, really.
Man, it is a big game. I asked a question last night. Does this equal revenge if the Eagles beat Kansas City? The overwhelming poll was 90% no, so people were saying no. But to the 10% of people that did say yes, what do you say to them?
I see her angle. We've never beat Andy Reid, so that we beating him in the regular season is a start to a potential rematch in the Super Bowl.
And I did notice you did bring up something last night that completely was not in my angle or not in my realm of thinking. You brought up the MVP conversation. Do you think this means Is this an MVP kind of game if Jalen Hurts wins this against Mahomes?
Definitely believe that because, okay, let's take a look at a little small lens into the MVP battle. You have Jalen, Lamar, AJ, Tyreek, and probably one other person, probably Mahomes. I don't really think Mahomes is like a strong candidate thus far, but nonetheless, he's Pat Mahomes. So, anywho, Lamar doesn't have as many total touchdowns as Jalen. Like, Jalen has like 22 and Lamar has 13, but obviously Jalen has the 8 interceptions, you know what I'm saying, a couple fumbles, and Lamar only has 3. Now, of course, if Jalen goes into KC on a Monday night game and plays like he just played against the Cowboys, or just like has a great game and wins, I can almost guarantee he will be the front runner of the MVP race, just because of the magnitude of that game. You showed out, and you have better stats than everybody else. So, like, this game is big. I know people say, "Oh, the revenge is really not going to be a revenge game," but it's a building block. And like he says, you know what I'm saying, we 1% better every day. We're trying to get that. So that game helps him individually in his race for MVP just as it does the team.
You definitely made me think of another question, a follow-up question. Who is the biggest competition to Jalen Hurts winning an MVP this year?
Good question. I don't actually think Lamar is. I think it's actually his teammate. I know receivers don't usually win. Well, they've never won this reward, but just by chance, he could, because, you know, the stats are on point. He's showing up in big moments, and I honestly think Tyreek is not above AJ in the MVP voting, because Tyreek is not really showing up in the biggest moments against the good teams. He's kind of like fizzling out, even against us. That fumble or whatever he did to drop, that was a walk-in touchdown, he did it there. Then he played against KC. His stats was terrible. He probably had like 3 catches for like 40 yards. So I definitely think they have AJ above him on that note. So I would say his teammate. And to credit to the thing about the AJ and Jalen thing is, Jalen is the reason AJ is in that combo, because he's force-feeding him to death to the point where, like, you have to put him in the conversation.
Okay, I like that. I like that conversation. I don't think anyone is thinking about that yet, so it's good to get your first take on it, man, because you're first on a lot of things. I just want you to know this, Jake.
A little foresight.
Yeah, you were one of the first. I mean, this is a huge transition, but you were one of the first to ever publicly say that we shouldn't bring Dean off the bench because it would destroy chemistry. So, having said that, I ran another poll last week, and I asked, who should be the starting middle linebacker between Morrow and Dean, and it was 50-50 split, right down the middle, 80 votes. That's not normal. So, having said that, what do you say to the 50% of people that think Dean should be the starting middle linebacker?
I think they have a problem. The problem is they're looking at potential over current production. Yes, Dean is younger. He came from Georgia, you know what I'm saying, a championship school, XYZ, cool. He may have more upside to him. But currently, when you put Morrow in that game, do you hear Morrow's name being called? Do you point out any bad things about Morrow when you watch? We don't hear about him. We just hear good things. Him and Cunningham have been doing an excellent job. Hell, Cunningham was looking like he can really cover in the last game. Actually, the last 2 games, because he had a play on the sideline. I think it was like a wheel route to the running back. The running back caught it because Cunningham hit the ball into his hand, but it was a great defensive play. So, yeah, I think people shouldn't speak to, we drafted Dean to be the next guy and middle linebacker. technically speaking, we didn't draft him for that. We had hopes that he would be that. And like any other player that has injury issues, I have a problem with you. I had to hold Mattis accountable, the Miles Sanders, like anybody that has injury issues and you play a kind of a key position, I started to keep my eye out for you a little more, and like my patience starts to get thin for you because we need you. But in Dean's case, your replacements are like stepping up so well to the fact I'm fine with you taking the back seat in case you don't pan out how we think you will.
I think there's still more debatable names that we got to go over later on that we will get to. I just want to stick with the defense real quick. My guy Eli Ricks, he had a terrible game last game. I tried to sit there and defend the man, but he was getting torched. So what would you say to Eli Ricks after a game like that?
I would tell him good game. He needed that. I'm a big fan of putting players in the fire when I know they're one of those type of players that they'll take that in stride. Like it's not gonna what's the cornerback for Washington? The cornerback who Forbes. Yeah. Forbes got his ass whooped for weeks. Like he kept having to go against the number one wide receivers. He was getting his ass tore up. I think for Eli Ricks, he took that as a challenge. Okay, this man just like took me to school. He's a veteran in this league. I had to go against the best receiver on the team multiple times. He kicked my ass every time. Eli Ricks will grow from this. He will. I'm almost certain the next time we see him have to go up against a elite receiver such as a CD Lamb, he will hold his own. A few times it wasn't even bad coverage. He tripped on one of the fourth down play that was inside the 20, but it was good coverage at first. But you can't be clumsy. So I'm not mad at him for getting cooked like that. It was just a learning experience. He'll grow from it.
Man, it makes me feel better about Eli Ricks after that week, man. Let me tell you. I'm gonna
add to that though. Real quick. He came from LSU and Alabama. And if you know those two schools, when it comes to DBs, you know the magnitude of the type of what that says about him as a player. He started both places. He didn't just start at one and came off the bench elsewhere. So he has all the talent, the intangibles. He's even competitive in the run game. Let me add that. Cornerbacks are scared to tackle, come up and hit something, and he puts his face in there.
I think he's a hell of a DB. I was a huge fan of him, still am. And that leads me to my next question, man. We got Sean Desai, man. I'm a huge fan of Sean Desai. He's had to work with 8 different secondaries in 9 games, I think I read. What is your confidence level in Sean Desai so far?
Sean has my complete trust, like to the point where whatever, I don't care how the first half looks, by halftime, Sean will adjust and the defense will not lose us a game. They have not lost us a single game this year. The 1 L was solely on the offense. The defense did their job out of the game. Hell, every third down stop we needed, they got us. I'm not going to hold that against them that they gave up that touchdown at the end because that was bullshit. Jalen shouldn't have threw that pick. So, Sean has been calling great games. He's not scared to bring the corners up to the line. He's not making them sit back on 3rd and 20 to just, eventually give up the big play. Nah, we're going to be in your face. The D-line is going to get pressure. The linebackers are playing their game to the fullest. Now, my only issue is not a Sean problem. It's the safeties. I feel like the safeties aren't clicking yet. When they click, it will take the defense to another level. But that's not a Sean problem. That's just them specifically.
I like that you brought up the safeties, man. I've been definitely... I haven't put my finger on Bayard yet. Do you think the Eagles are going to re-sign him? What do you think of his performance? What do you think the future holds for him?
Okay. It's really going to be the deciding game for him because obviously he will have matchups against Kelsey. So, you have not shown us anything that's like, okay, yeah, we should definitely re-sign him. Like, get the paperwork on the table now. You've looked out of sorts. You kind of taking bad reads. You've only had one play where you almost caught the interception against Washington. Other than that, I haven't seen anything from you that was like, good pickup. So this next game, you have 2 weeks to really get a full-on understanding of this defense and where you should be, the read you should take, the angles, everything you should be ready for before this next Monday night game. If he does not look good in this game, Howie lost that trade.
You definitely answered my next question. I'll just go over and ask it again. Do you think Howie won that trade?
I think the fact that he brought in a safety that has never missed a game and is an all-pro, that trade looks good on paper. Now, will Byron step up to the plate and play like the safety we've seen him thus far? So I think it was a fair shake because if he doesn't pan out, all we did was give up the worst safety on the team and I guess a draft pick, and then we get Byron off the books. So right back to square one. So it can be a win-win even if Byron doesn't play out because we didn't really lose anything. And Howie is exceptional at getting back late picks, so I'm not worried about that. But hopefully he does pan out because we really do need our safeties to start stepping up. They've been getting cooked in coverage.
Who is your defensive MVP?
I'll start with Hassan Reddick. I'm definitely, 100% Hassan Reddick.
Okay.
Really, actually, I take that back. I'll just say the D-line. I won't even put it on one person. D-line has won us many games. Up front, they just dominate.
But out of all those players, you would say Hassan Reddick.
Hassan, for sure.
He's been closing. I can't.
Probably Sweatneck.
Sweaty's been underrated, man. He's been high under the radar. Still is. Going against those left tackles, I don't know. All right, let's switch over to the Eagles' offense, though. We haven't talked much about their offense. You were actually one of the only people out there that were critical of the DeAndre Swift pickup. Now, after a few weeks, what is your take on DeAndre Swift right now?
Swift has been better than what I potentially would expect because rather people want to admit it not, he does favor Miles Sanders in some capacities. The hit-or-miss vision, injuries, fumbles. But he's looked good. I'm not going to shit on him. He's looked good. Now, lately, he's kind of like the fumbling thing is starting to pick up a little more. Okay, at the start of the season, he wasn't fumbling. But now it's like you're starting to give it up a little more. You cannot give up that ball. I don't care what happens. You cannot give up that ball. So he's looked good, but I just don't want him to start reverting back to what I was scared of happening, of him being the player that I thought he would. I would gladly be wrong, like to be wrong about him.
That was a wild fumble at the end of the Cowboys game. There's no excuse for that. This would be a completely different conversation if the Eagles lost because of that fumble, because it was a huge fumble. What do you like what you're seeing from the Eagles run game right now?
Okay. We need to get more penny runs in because the style of the runner that he is like a Swiss knife because he can do more than just the power. He's a home run hitter as well. Swift can do that too, but I feel like Penny has a knack for it. It's different for him because like his history has a lot of 20-plus yard big runs. That's his thing. But like we kind of like hit him, and I'm not sure if it's because we want to use him in a later stretch of the season, or was it something going on behind the scenes where they just love Swift and Gainwell so much? But the run game hasn't exactly been stellar, but it's been good. Like, it can be better, but, like, we probably should run the ball more. But I think the inside guard situation is kind of like giving us a little issues about what we want to do with the run game.
And I think it's the perfect time to transition to this new game I just made. You haven't played it, man. I made it like 2 weeks ago. It's called Starter Sit. It's a very controversial game. It's been very popular. So we're going to do it with you, man. I'm going to name 2 different... It could be names. It could be anything, really. You just pick one. We're going to decide if I like the answer. I'm going to hit you with a... If I don't, it's going to be a... I need you to explain yourself, all right? Here we go. The J Flexo edition. All right, so you already went over my first one, so we're going to go skip to number 2, and that is biggest weakness, tight end position or nickel position?
Nickel.
Explain yourself.
Now, teams have been pretty much attacking that nickel position. Let's go back to, we can start what was the first game where it started to show? Well, you can say the Vikings game, because certain teams were playing, their star receivers go to the slot a lot. Mike Evans, Jetta, CD, all of them have went to that slot, and they have 8. Like, it's not a opinion or anything. They have 8 on us when they put them in that slot, because we haven't had a legit option at nickel. We tried the Bradbury thing. We started using Eli and Sidney there, and it's just not working yet. I'm really ready for Robbie to come back. He already said he'll be back for this Chiefs game. That's a big upgrade from what we've been dealing with. Now the tight ends, I'm actually very confident in the tight end group because I know they've held their own before. Like Jack Stoll is a solid, but Albert is my new what's that guy's name? I had such high hopes for him, but he ended up not panning out.
I can't say his last name. His last name is too wild.
Yeah, I'm not saying his last name. It's another guy we just had. He was a quarterback change receiver. Well, tight end.
Yeah, we released him. We released that dude. Jackson, something Jackson.
He's basically Tyree Jackson, but faster and stronger.
Who?
I believe in him. I believe he has all the qualities and abilities to make losing Dallas insignificant blow. So, him, Jack Stoll, and we're going to mix in Julio in different personnel, and I'm confident they'll do just fine, especially with using Julio and whatever package they want to go with that.
You were about to give someone a shout-out. Who are you going to give a shout-out to?
I was giving a shout-out to BJ because this is a perfect example for him to show how creative a play call he is. Okay, just hear me out on this. Julio is 6'3", 227. Kyle Pitts is 6'6", 240. When Kyle Pitts was at Florida, listen, he was a monster. Like, obviously, because he went a high draft pick.
He was.
The things BJ was able to create with a Julio Jones basically being his Kyle Pitts here, with Goddard out, will be special if that's what they're looking to do, because Julio is still, you know what I'm saying, he's still Julio at the end of the day. So I'm really looking forward to see what type of packages or plays they draw for Julio, because this will be a big thing. We need him to step up. We just lost the number 1 tight end, great blocker, etc. So I'm looking forward to that, and I just think the tight ends will step up.
Hey, man, that's going to get clipped right there. That is a hell of a take right there. You are predicting Julio's production to step up and fill the void. All right. Ain't nobody saying that. All right. Clip it. All right. That means my next 2, goal line. We're in the goal line. It's early in the downs. Let's go Penny or Swift. Who you handing that rock to?
How far are we?
3 yards away.
Swift, but I feel like short yardage, he might start overthinking which hole he should hit, and I just know Penny will go.
Bradbury or Slay? Keep one. End of the year.
Jesus Christ. Slay stays only because he hasn't looked as bad as Bradbury has.
That's funny. I'm laughing over it. Okay, yeah, we'll go with that, man. I agree with Bradbury's wild, man. Backup QB, Tanner McKee or Marcus Mariota?
I won't shun Mariota because I haven't seen him throwing to the AJs, the Devontae, and the starting whole line in front of him. He's had the backup. So I'm going to just stay with Mariota for now on the veteran tip, but in the long run, I do want McKee as backup.
Steen or Juergens?
For now, Juergens, but we know he'll be moving to center next year.
All right. Bayard or draft a safety?
He stays one more year. As a college football heavy watcher, I don't think off the top of my head of any safety that's like, ooh, people may say Kool-Aid or something, but nah. Bring back the veteran.
Okay. Re-sign Swift or don't re-sign Swift?
Depending on what number he wants.
All right.
We're not paying a lot for the running back. That's just the truth.
Well, that's it with that game right there. I think you passed with flying colors. I'm interested to hear what other people have to say with those exact same questions. So we're going to be comparing them this week, actually, for the bye-week special. You had some huge comments about A.J. Brown in the beginning of your podcast episode about Buddy Ball, the Buddy Ball system. 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, what do you feel about those comments?
I don't retract them. The last 2 games we have played, the ball has been spread more. The offense has done better in the red zone, done better overall. There's no stalling. When you spread the ball out, the defense just not focusing on one person, so it makes it harder for them to even keep up with us. So I do not retract my statement about the A.J. Brown, Jalen, Buddy Ball, because it was starting to become detrimental, in my opinion, from the looks of how the offense is maneuvering and how we were carrying. Yeah, we're getting the stats, A.J., 100-yard games consecutively, cool, but the grand scheme of things for the offense is not helping. Because you're not the only number one receiver here. We have a top 5 tight end. We have great running backs. It just move the ball around.
You were actually one of the things that we talked about too was Brian Johnson. You were actually one of the few people that wasn't overreacting about Brian Johnson early in the season. You weren't calling for his firing. You weren't calling for anything too crazy. So. Now that the Eagles are creeping up the red zone scoring list, it looks a lot better. What are your thoughts on Brian Johnson so far?
DJ has done exactly what he's supposed to do, get better each week. I think people forget that when Shane was his first year, he struggled too. Yeah, I mean, like, it's a new team, new system. Like, you don't just take a job and you off the bat know what you're doing at this high level. It's a transition, and each week he has shown us that, okay, last week this didn't work, this did work. Okay, how can I fix this? Each week has literally gotten better. That can be proven. The offense is what? What are we, a top 3 offense? And then our only real problem was the red zone. But I am curious to know where we rank in the rushing because I do want to run the ball more, but I've already disclosed what we need to figure out regarding the run game before we really push the rock on that note.
Now, I also saw just a tweet floating around. ESPN Analytics had the Eagles losing the next 4 games they play. That's the Chiefs, Bills, Niners, and Cowboys. What is your prediction on the next 4 games, sir?
We're not losing more than 1 game. If we lose to the Chiefs, we're not losing anymore. And honestly, there's a chance we go 4-0. If you want to be honest, it depends on how we're playing, though. If we're playing like The Jets game, which I don't think is our case because the team has been growing each week, but it's a chance we go 3-1 or 4-0. The Dallas game we can lose only because I think it won't matter as much if we win those first three. We beat Dallas the first time, so it kind of like pushes them out the way, really. So they'll come out hard. They're at home. We don't know how the refs are going to be because we know how the refs are in Dallas. They've already shown us that they will cheat.
Definitely gave him a lot of yards towards the end of the fourth quarter, that's for sure. Now, before we get out of here, I just want to ask about, do you have any thoughts on Carson Wentz to the Rams?
He will fail.
That's hilarious.
I say that because I've never took Carson for being coachable. That's always been his problem, and he's a gunslinger. Like he likes to play hero ball, and you having two stud receivers, you may feel like, okay, they can make a play on that, but what you don't see is the safety sitting over the top waiting to take it. So if Sean McVay can convince him to, be coachable, etc., he may work out fine. But, I mean, their season is still over, but just for him, it would benefit him to be coachable because he'll be back out of a job if not.
Actually, I got one more question. Is there anybody in the draft right now? I know you watch a lot of college football. Is there anybody in the draft that you have your eye on that you think Howie would actually draft? Meaning not a linebacker.
It's funny you say it because I was going to say a linebacker.
All right. Were you going to say Jeremiah Trotter, brother?
Yes.
Give us your argument of why Howie Roseman should draft Jeremiah Trotter. Here's the first win of the season.
He is a stud. Not scared to hit, good in coverage. I mean, and then, I know Howie is one of those people that the connection. If there's a connection there, Howie will exploit it. So just like everybody we had, the Kevin Byers, the Swift, are from Philly. In this case, a player's dad played for Philly. That will not get looked over, especially being who your dad was. So I think he will, depending on where in the draft he's available, because that matters to Howie.
That's true. I mean, if we get a late 30s or, 31, 32, yeah, maybe, man. I don't know.
And we don't know who will be in free agency, like who's really on the market for that, because we might be moving some pieces around. So, hey, the most important thing in the draft is we need to find Lane Johnson's replacement.
Facts.
Not in the first round. The second round, third round, I want Lane's replacement.
Yeah. I mean, he's such a stud. You got to draft a stud to replace him.
Yes. Preferably somebody that's pretty polished, but still able to get better.
I like it, brother. I appreciated this conversation. Is there anything else I forgot to ask that you want to add to this?
Not at the moment. I'm curious to know, what do you think our next 4 games will look like, the outcomes?
That Kansas City game. Oh man, they look so good. Like, they're flying under the radar, and they won a Super Bowl, which is weird. That defense, I was just thinking about it this morning. That defense is way better than it was last year. Now, yeah, they got confidence. They won a ring. They know what it takes. Like, they're gonna be a tough team, man. They're still a tough team. I hope someone else could take them out so that we don't have to play them again. Because if we do, we're gonna need we're gonna need a perfect game. A perfect game. It's like a Nick Foles game. Just no turnovers. Just go. So we'll see, man.
We cannot turn that ball over again in the Super Bowl.
We can't. We can't help but turn the ball over in every game, though.
That's a problem.
It's interesting. It's interesting, and that's all it takes, man. One game, couple turnovers, you're out. That's it. You're done. Season over. Other than that, brother, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. It's 8-1. I feel great, man. I feel great about the team, but I'm watching Mahomes, brother. I'm just watching Mahomes cook. That's all I'm doing, man. Like, damn, that's for hoes.
Nah, thanks.
All right, brother. Well, I do appreciate you for coming through. Always on the bye week special. Definitely want to keep bringing you on throughout the season, man. You are definitely one of the funniest dudes on Twitter. So definitely appreciate you coming through, man.
No problem, man. I appreciate you having me on, man.
Do you want to drop your handle one more time for the folks that didn't catch you the first time?
JFlexo, JFLEX0_.
Perfect. All right, brother. I appreciate you for coming on, man. You have a great week, brother.
Yes, sir. You too.
Welcome, Tyler, to the show. Now, if you don't know, Tyler is actually the first guest I ever had on the show. This would not have been possible or where we are right now without Tyler's help, giving me the confidence I needed to think that I can pull this off. So welcome, Tyler, to the show. Before we get started, I just want to get the most important business out of the way, Tyler. Did you end up getting your hands on that Princess Diana jacket?
You know, I wish I did, but unfortunately, you know, I didn't think about the time change being on the West Coast, and so I think it went live online at like 6 a.m. this morning for me, and I was sound asleep snoring away because I was up way too late last night to even think about ordering the jacket this early in the morning.
Oh man.
After seeing those resale prices, I'm gonna hope that they restock it at Mitchell and Ness, but unfortunately I might just be looking for a vintage jacket instead of paying $1,000 on eBay for one of those.
Yeah, you might have to look for a knockoff wherever you can get those knockoff jerseys. They might be selling them too. A big loss, Tyler. That's a big loss, Tyler. That jacket is heat, pure heat.
It is a nice jacket, and unfortunately, I'm like I say, I'm gonna hope they restock it because that's probably my only hope to try and get one. At least not for a crazy overpriced value.
Man, it's gonna get out there, man. So I guess we're just gonna get started off right in my new game that I created a few weeks ago. You haven't played it, sir, so we definitely are looking forward to getting you on this. This is a sit or start game. So basically, I give you two different options. It could be anything. It could be players. It could be positions. You tell me which one. If I like it, you're gonna hear and if I don't like it, you're going to hear So, once you hear a buzzard, you just got to explain yourself to the people. This has been a very controversial game. It's gotten out a lot of good answers, so I'm interested in to hear what Tyler can do.
All right,
my guy. So, the first picks, Eli Ricks or Sidney Brown in the slot?
Oh, I think I'm gonna go with Eli Ricks on this one.
Eli Ricks? We're gonna pass him. We're gonna pass him on that answer. All right, next. Go ahead.
No. I mean, I think Ricks and Brown in the slot have both been. I don't want to say an issue. I think they've both done a job. I don't know if it's been a good job. I think it's also quite unfair to judge both of them having to go up against CeeDee Lamb, and I'm trying to look at the schedule real quick here and see what else they might have gone against. But I mean, like they've both done an okay job given what they're given, considering they're both rookies, and it's not like they were first round picks. I mean, Ricks was undrafted, but they've done a job, and I think it's a good learning experience for them if that's what those positions might look like for the Eagles in the near future. But I do think that Sidney Brown's looked a little bit better as more of a run stuffer than he has as that slot cornerback to replace Maddox. But I think luckily, I think Bradley Roby's supposed to be returning next week for after the bye. So luckily they might get a little bit less play time, which might be better than what we've been witnessing so far.
All right, I like that. That also gave me an even better number 2 question here. All right, let's go Bayard next year. This is next year's safety. Let's go Bayard or Sidney Brown. The future of the Eagles safety position.
Oh, I think I might have to go with Bayard on this one.
You gotta explain yourself, sir.
He's under contract until after next year, if I'm not mistaken. He hasn't looked great yet, but mind you, I don't think anybody in the secondary has looked great the last 2 weeks. I think you're gonna give him maybe another week or two to really get accustomed and to really find his way to fit in. I think there's been some miscommunication issues on the defense, and I think once he can find a groove, I think he'll look a little bit more like what the Eagles wanted to trade for. And I think unless the Eagles are going out and trying to get a safety or a slot with a high pick next year, I think it's all right, because I think you get Sidney Brown another year. Maybe he's not playing starter snaps like he has been the last couple weeks, but I think he's going to get a few of those snaps in the rotation. There's always. It feels like every year there's some type of injury in the Eagles secondary, so I'm sure he'll get some starting time eventually, whether it's later this year or by the end of the year or by sometime next year. But I mean, Sidney Brown's under contract for 3 more years after this, so I don't think it's the end of the world if he's got to sit down and not get some full-time reps until year 3 or 4. I do like him. I think he's looked great in spots, but of course, he's a young safety, and he's got some growing to do, and I think that's a fair assessment considering how deep this team finally is, at least for the moment, and at least when you look at a lack of injuries, how deep the secondary of the Eagles actually might be for the first time in quite some time.
Well, the next one, let's see if this one stumps you right here. Biggest weakness on the Eagles right now: tight end position or nickel position?
I'm gonna go kind of right down the middle. I think going into next week, I think it's going to be the tight end position.
Okay, keep explaining yourself since you're right down the middle.
Well, I think if I didn't know that Roby, I read it somewhere. I don't know where. I don't know if it's official. He might not play next Sunday. I have no idea. If he's supposed to be back, I think the nickel position's in a little bit better of a spot. Of course, they're going up against the Chiefs, and Travis Kelce's probably going to get like 150 yards, but different conversation there. I think the tight end position's going to struggle. It struggled heavily last year when Goddard got hurt against the Commanders. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but Stolen Calcaterra got like 50 yards, maybe, in the 4 weeks that Goddard was gone. So I think I think the production for the tight ends, not that there was lots every week so far this year for them, but I think it's going to drop a little bit more again this year unless they can somehow get them. I mean, Calcaterra was out last week anyways, so if he's back, I know he's got a history with concussions. If he's able to come back 2 weeks from now, which I imagine he will, they didn't have a lot of stats last year, and so if they don't do something about that, I think that might be a big issue for the Eagles for what I think I was seeing for Goddard is at least 4 to 6 weeks. So that's got him not coming back until probably the next Cowboys game, maybe the Seahawks or first Giants game. So unless they can somehow get involved, I think there's not going to be a lot of tight end production, and some of the blocking might get a little bit worse, but you never know against some of these defenses.
That's a great explanation on both positions, because that's something that we definitely needed to talk about. All right, next one, I'll say keep one. Next year, you can only keep one. James Bradbury or Darius Slay?
Oh, that's fun. I think I'm gonna keep Darius Slay on this one. I'm gonna keep Slay because I think just because Bradbury's a little bit younger, and because he's got a little bit less money going forwards, if I'm not mistaken, He might be an easier thing. He might be an easier contract to move. He might be not looking as good as he did last year. But I do believe there's been not a lot of rotation going on in the Eagles secondary, and so I scream into the void of the internet about it all the time that it's a little frustrating not seeing any movement going on and watching whether it was CeeDee Lamb or whether it was Terry McLaurin or whether it was Tyreek or Waddle just having their way, whether it's against Bradbury or Ricks or whoever's in the slot any of the last couple of games when they were rotating Bradbury in and out or when they had Job on the outside. It's a little frustrating to see that, but I do think even when you're getting to watch Slay on a wide receiver 2 or 3, he is still he's not allowing a lot. He is still making those plays at the end of the Dolphins game. So I think going forwards, I would probably keep Slay, and I think also just because maybe if you're lucky, and this isn't a good lucky, this is just a happenstance lucky, maybe if you get a year or two in from now and he decides to retire and doesn't want to finish out the contract, then maybe that's a little bit better than if Bradbury regresses a little bit more in the next 2 years when his contract is still going.
Next one. This is between the right guard position. Are we bringing Juergens back in or are we leaving Steen in for now?
Oh, I think they might bring Juergens back, as they should. I think, he won the position during preseason, if there was even a competition at all during preseason. I think getting Steen as playtime, even though he was the only real option to play, I think lots of people thought he had a pretty bad game against the Cowboys, and I'm going to say agree to disagree. I think for his first real start in an NFL game to go against the Cowboys defensive line, I think you're allowed to have some struggles. I don't see anybody else in their first NFL start really doing wonders against that. But I do think Juergens might be the missing piece that had the running game working on the level that it was. And so it'd be nice to see him back, but I do think the Eagles made a good decision keeping Juergens off the field for the Cowboys game, just so that he gets an extra 2 weeks and hopefully gets just that little bit healthier. Maybe he doesn't have a recurring injury like Nakobe Dean did.
I like it. And I think you passed this game. It was a pleasure doing this game for the first time with you, Tyler. Gave me some really good answers. Definitely went in depth on a lot of these, so that's good. It's good. Good game. Now we're on to the next segment.
Bust it, bring it back, 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 bust it, bring it back.
And on the next segment is basically me. I went back and I listened to all of our talks, Tyler. I listened to all your predictions, Tyler. So after doing my homework on your predictions, I have a couple things that I need to bring up here. Now, you were on the money about Howie Roseman. After the Jets game, the very last question I asked every guest is if there is something that I forgot to ask, and you brought up Howie Roseman would cook, and Howie Roseman did cook. He did bring in Julio Jones. He did bring in Kevin Byard. Now the next question is, how would you grade the Byard and the Julio Jones pickup?
I think the Julio Jones pickup looks pretty good. You're going to have to give me half a second here so I can look up what Julio Jones has done so far numbers-wise, just because I don't know off the top of my head. He's only had 2 receptions total across, or no, that's not including the Cowboys game, too. Take another second there and stumble through that one. All right, he's got 2 receptions for 11 yards and the 1 touchdown. I think he was a great pickup. I think if Quez is still going to be out a little while longer, I haven't even looked at when he might be able to return. But I think even those 11 yards have been quite meaningful. Like the contact that he gets hit with on that touchdown, I can't say a lot of people come down with that football. And so I think the Julio Jones he could maybe be getting a little bit more involved. Maybe the offense stalls a little bit less on a few drives. But I think so far, I think he's looking at like a B, maybe a B plus. It's been a great pickup. It's been good wide receiver depth, and it'll be even better if Quez is able to come back at any point for the rest of the year, just so that the Eagles will have that fifth wide receiver on the roster, because they only rolled in with 4 if you don't want to include Devin Allen or Britton Covey. So I'm really pumped on that move, and I hope to see a little bit more production. But if he's going to catch those great third or fourth down balls late in the game, that's going to keep a drive going. Excellent.
And Byard?
It hasn't looked fantastic. How he really got the ball going, and he got the deal done before the deadline, but he hasn't looked fantastic, and I don't really know what's going on there. I can't really tell you if there's been a few miscommunication issues. There's been a few moments where he's in a position to make the play or could make the play, and he doesn't. I'm pretty sure there was a third or fourth down against the Commanders where Logan Thomas could have had the interception, but Logan Thomas got the ball and got some big yardage, and there was a play where he was definitely getting cooked, I think, by CeeDee Lamb against the Cowboys. He hasn't looked like the all-pro that the Eagles have traded for, but I do think that's coming, and for the price that they paid, if I've got to wait until, I don't know, if I've got to wait until the Seahawks game to see him get an interception that helps end the game, if that's what it's going to be for him to make a difference, if we've got to wait till the playoffs, then I think that's going to be the trade that's worth it, because it's not like they gave up very much for that trade, and I think that's great because he's also under contract for the next year, so as long as he can get back up to what he looks like in Tennessee, I think he'll be fine.
I guess my next question would be on Sean Desai. Now, you were on record stating Sean Desai could be a one-and-done head coach. That take looks good. It looks really good. With the exception of the Cowboys, what would you say went wrong there?
It took quite a while for Slay or Bradbury to cover CeeDee Lamb, and I think that's definitely been one of his biggest issues so far. I mean, CeeDee Lamb had like 195 yards or something. 191, sorry. I think that's a little bit of a blunder there, and I think that's why you look at that Sidney Brown or Eli Ricks question from earlier, and you just kind of think like you can't really blame either of them. Like, they're going up against one of the best at least of right now. They're going up against one of the best slot wide receivers, and you are literally a rookie who's maybe at most, I think Ricks has started maybe 3 games. Sidney Brown started 1 at safety, and then they started putting him in at slot. And so it's just kind of like, they're trying to hold the nickel position together with a little bit of duct tape, and unfortunately, going against CeeDee Lamb was probably not the best situation for that roll of duct tape because it didn't really do much. And I think it might be one of the biggest reasons that the game was as close as it was and why the Eagles almost lost if it wasn't for them throwing short of the end zone on that last play. But
yeah,
I do think Sean Desai's been doing a pretty good job. I think there's still just like minor miscommunication errors, and there's a little bit of an injury excuse in a few situations. I mean, the end of the game against the Cowboys, I think that last drive, Bradbury was hurt and Slay got hurt, and then I think somebody else went down briefly. And so that's why I say I think it's a miracle that the defense managed to pull that win off. But I do think Sean Desai's defense steps up when it needs to. If you didn't notice, the whole Cowboys were on the 6-yard line and they ended up on the 27 after 2 penalties for the sack, and then I think 2 sacks. It's a very stressful defense, but it adjusts more than Gannon does, and he's got a lot better personnel to play with than Jim Schwartz ever did.
I do like that you brought up the adjustments of this defense because I definitely did notice it as well. I guess my next question, you almost answered it a little bit. It's back on Eli Ricks. I've been a big fan of Eli Ricks throughout the season. He's covered some elite wide receivers. He got toasted last game. I tried to defend the guy as he was getting toasted last game. And I guess my question is, what would you say to Eli Ricks after a game like that?
I think you got to tell him to look back at some of his previous games. I think, unfortunately, he's the guy that's getting moved around a lot. If I'm not mistaken, he's gotten thrown from playing outside, and he was covering Tyreek against the Dolphins on that third down where he clamped him up. And then, unfortunately, next thing you know, you're playing nickel and you're getting cooked by CeeDee Lamb. And I think you just got to look at it as, unfortunately, unfortunately for Ricks, the expectations aren't exactly through the roof for you. You don't have to play at the level of Darius Slay can and does. You don't have to be playing at that on your second or third NFL start. I think if you look back at the Dolphins game, he made some good plays. If you look back at the Commanders game, he made some plays. And I think, unfortunately, it's just one of those games where you ended up going against a really good wide receiver. I think, unfortunately, there was the one, I want to say it was a third or fourth down where he slipped on the grass, and that's when CD got wide open. And I think you just got to say, unfortunately, shit happens, and you're going to be back doing that again next week. And if you can make up for your mistake somewhere, then that's where you can make up for it. The Eagles still won the game, and so he shouldn't be getting as much flack, I think, as he has been. I think there's also a little bit more you can look at Bradbury for being a little bit more of a problem. But I do think he can look forward to the future and not dwell on some of the bad plays of his, like I say, his first couple of games in the NFL. You're going to make mistakes and you're going to get cooked by guys that are just at the point right now where they're better than you. And I think the only thing you can do is learn from that and try and get better. And when they play the Cowboys again in 4 weeks from now, you hope he picks back off late in the fourth quarter and ends the game, and then nobody will remember him getting cooked in week 9.
ESPN Analytics yesterday had us losing the next 4 games. Chiefs, Bills, Niners, and Cowboys. What do you have? What is our record the next 4 games, in your opinion?
Do you want a quick answer or do you want a long answer? Because I've got both. I think I'm gonna say a quick answer, and I'm gonna go 2-2. I'm gonna give some of these opponents a little bit of slack, and I'm gonna say the losses are gonna probably come against the Chiefs, and I think against the Cowboys in Dallas.
All right, 2-2. I like that. I like that a lot. All right, what do you think about? Just one more, because I got one more. This Kansas City game, man. This Kansas City game is like, I can't put my finger on what this game means as far as wins or losses. What does it mean to you?
It means a lot, I think, to everybody. It should mean tons. It's an unfortunate rematch of a Super Bowl that most likely could have gone differently, and maybe in however many other different alternate realities it might have gone differently. But it's the second AFC opponent that the Eagles are going to play that they could most likely see in the Super Bowl. Really, I think it's the only team that they're going to play in the AFC that might make the Super Bowl. The Dolphins haven't looked nearly as great against some more contending teams as they have against teams like the Broncos and whatever other bad teams that they've had the luxury of being able to show off against. But I think playing against the Chiefs and Bills is going to be the Eagles' biggest test for what the end result of the playoffs might look like. I don't even think the Bills, actually, now that I say that, have been the opponent that everybody always hypes them up to be in the start of the year. But playing against the Chiefs, I think it's going to be a lot different of a game because the Chiefs' offense has not looked as good as it has years prior. Obviously, that changes when you lose Tyreek Hill. But I think the Chiefs' defense is what's really been the game changer for them in the last couple of weeks, especially against the Dolphins, too. And so I think it's going to be a lot different of a game because both offenses kind of seems to almost have their way in the Super Bowl. And I think this might be similar to the Chiefs-Dolphins game if you were fortunate enough to wake up early and watch that. I didn't. I caught some replays. But I do think Eagles-Chiefs is going to be might still be a high-scoring game, but I don't think it's going to be C.J. Stroud's 470 passing yards. I think it's going to be a lot of defense and a lot of fun action. And I hope the Eagles come out on top, but this game doesn't really matter as much as it might in February if they play again in Vegas. So it's really just a measure of what can they learn and how can they use that if they have to play them again in a few months from now.
And I thank you for the explanation. I've been trying to put my finger on this KC game, so that gives me a little bit more hype for it.
It's a little hard to explain, but yeah, like it's a rematch that has no real value. Well, not that it doesn't have real value. Like it's a rematch of the Super Bowl, but unfortunately the stakes aren't nearly as high at the moment because not as much for the Chiefs at least because they don't have as big of a lead on the first seed, but the Eagles might have some leeway heading into that game on Monday night, depending on how some Sunday games go. And like I say, if they manage to win, they manage to win, and if they lose, then it's an unfortunate loss that gets added to the 8-1 start. And if it's a blowout, then unfortunately there's a lot of questions that might have to be asked by literally next Sunday after that to go against Josh Allen and the Bills. So I think it's a matter of getting healthy and finding out what they can learn to use against the Chiefs if they have to play them again later in the year. Because if I'm not mistaken, that's exactly what happened in the Super Bowl. They used that motion pre-snap that the Jaguars used against the Eagles at the very start of the year, and that's what they used to get 2 touchdowns on the exact same play in the Super Bowl. So if Desai is as hungry as he is, he should be looking at using some of this film for the future, whether it's next year or whether it's 3 years from now for him when he's a head coach somewhere else, or when, like I say, if either of these teams show up in the Super Bowl, it's going to be what they need to use to get somewhere.
Well, Tyler, I appreciate you. Did you want to drop your handle one more time for the people who don't know you?
You can catch me on Twitter screaming into the empty void of the internet at TYL Happy, screaming during football games. If you don't want to catch any of my crappy hockey takes, feel free to not pay attention to those. But I am most definitely there every Sunday, occasionally Thursdays and Mondays. But I am there for most, if not all game days, yelling at something or somebody for, not making me happy or losing me money on parlays. But I will be there, and I am more than happy to hear everybody else's thoughts on whether or not my takes here are any worse than they are on Twitter.
Well, Tyler, we appreciate you. Thanks again for coming on. Of course, as always, have a good week, man. And there you have it, the bye week special. A big thank you to everyone supported. I appreciate you. Shared. I appreciate you. Special thank you to my guests for fitting your schedules to make this happen. Sharia, I appreciate you. Tyler, I appreciate you. Jay Flexo, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you again. It couldn't be possible without you guys, and it wouldn't be where it is without you guys. So a very special thank you to the guests. Before I get out of here, let me give a shout out to Philly Sports Nation. That's actually PHLSportsNation.com. Check out Tyler's site. Also, big shout out to Bird Gang Brothers, man. Shout out to Bird Gang Brothers for the DM the other day. That's a podcast, the Bird Gang Brothers podcast. You can find them on YouTube. They're doing their thing. Thank you for reaching out. I appreciate you. You know how we do. We just talking, man. We just talking, and it's easy when the birds are winning. So thank y'all for tuning in again. I appreciate you. Of course, you can find me on Twitter, _. If there is anybody in particular that you want me to interview, ask some questions, go ahead and just send me a message, and I'll do my best to make it happen, to reach out at least, to see if we can link. If we can't, we can't, but I'll definitely try my best. Great season. We are 8-1. We got Kansas City next week. That's going to be fun. Fireworks. I'm excited. Monday night. And I'm excited for the run, man. I'm excited for the run. So thank you once again for tuning in. I appreciate you. Take care. Go Birds, baby. Go Birds.